Archimex login confirmed.
Welcome to the Lodge. You've accessed
the Lodgecast experience.
Warning, warning, dangerous spoilers ahead. Enjoy.
Hello to Matt's Movie Lodge. I am Ray Don Chong. I want to send love and light to you all at this time. And now, by the power vested in me, I summon the Lodgecast.
The Lodgecast is a little podcast where we watch weird movies, so you don't have to.
The Lodgecast, baby.
Lodgecast, gonna smoke grass. Lodgecast, listen movie pass. Lodgecast,
We're gonna watch some crap.
Lodgecast.
And then the Lodge Master chats.
With Lucas and Bishki.
Episode 89, The Five Bloods. Hello and welcome to a full episode of the Lodgecast. I'm your Lodge Master. With me as always is Brother Bishki.
Show enough.
Brother Lucas is virtually in the back seat.
Hoorah, Master Chief.
And to help us tackle the enigmatic, controversial, always fascinating filmmaker Spike Lee, it's Brother Zach Attack.
Psyched to be back for Spike on the Lodgecast, on a normal Lodgecast, full length.
Yes.
Very exciting.
Yes.
Full episode the way Mr. Lee would like it.
That's right. And Brother Bishki, I understand, has been doing some homework on Spike Lee. Is that true?
I've been watching lots of Spike Lee. I have a DVD box set called the Spike Lee Joint Collection, which I watched Do the Right Thing, Mo Better Blues, Jungle Fever, Crooklyn, Clockers, and I also watched 25th Hour.
Wow, that's a whole lot of Spike.
Yeah.
And what have you gleaned from all that?
Yeah, Do the Right Thing is the best. And he doesn't really top himself. I mean, there's still plenty more to see, but I don't know if he tops himself after
How
that
many
one.
films have topped Do the Right Thing in the last 30 years, though? Few.
I know.
Just to be fair to Spike here.
I know.
Yeah.
What's Do the Right Thing like watching it in the current social climate?
It's just the events that we've experienced in microcosm. It's just like Spike just sending out a warning through time. And yeah, the ending is amazing. And yeah, I mean, in terms of a director, I think he's visually just great in the other ones. It's just sometimes in terms of a writer, he could maybe either tighten it up or put more incident in. I think certain films would have hit harder if they were like 90 minutes, but they're all kind of over 2 hours.
I agree. I definitely think Spike's his own worst enemy because he has to write everything. He always has to take over the script himself if it's not from his own work. And I think that sometimes he can get lost in the weeds a little bit and a little distracted in the script.
Well, also after such a seismic cultural cinematic event like Do the Right Thing was, for better or for worse, nobody can say shit to him after that.
Yeah.
That movie writes a check that he still cashes today.
He cashed it to make Malcolm X also. I mean,
for sure.
But just talking about brevity, that's not what he's interested in,
right?
As evidenced with today's film as well, which is, 2 hours and 40 minutes?
Yes.
That's pretty much all I know about this movie. I know it's 2 hours and 40 minutes, it's Netflix, and it has something to do with Vietnam. That's all I know.
Yeah,
That's good.
I know that much, and the only other really crucial bit of information that I know is that it was supposed to premiere at Cannes last month, which is the number one biggest film festival in the world, and absolutely prestigious in the sense that you're announcing to the world that this is a meaningful, important, culturally significant film that should be paid attention to come Oscar time. And here it is a month after Cannes normally would take place. Less than a month really, and it's already getting dumped on VOD.
Whoa.
Which is kind of.
Let's clear it up, though. Let's clear it up. This was always a Netflix film. It's not getting dumped. It was always a Netflix film.
It would have had a theatrical with Netflix, but
yes, it would have
yeah.
had the
At the
Netflix
Egyptian,
ceremonial 50 to 100 screens because Spike and Cuarón and Marty are powerful enough directors they want to keep happy. But yeah, I mean, for all intents and purposes, this movie was coming out this weekend, regardless of COVID. And I believe Black Klansman premiered at Cannes, his last film, and it got a big, long standing ovation at that grand finale, which, as avid listeners of the Lodgecast will remember, got a bit of a standing ovation from the boys in The Edge after watching the end of that movie. So it is interesting to think about, LT, about how this film would have been received at Cannes leading up to the buildup of the release in Netflix. And I guess, like another 50 to 100 screens.
I also found out that the script has been around since 2013. So Spike, spent close to a decade trying to find the financing for it.
Has Spike always been a part of the script, or did the script find Spike? Do you know?
I don't know. I'm not quite clear on the provenance of it, but it reminds me just a whiff of John Ridley's original spec for Three Kings, which I guess David O. Russell had rewritten extensively, so they're not the same thing story wise. But this kind of has this John Ridley kind of vibe, I think.
And the last thing I would say is, because Black Klansman was kind of Spike's return to form, the big celebration at the Oscars. Of course, he lost to another weak sauce, Can't We All Get Along movie, which we'll never.
There's a Pulitzer Prize winning photo of Spike in his purple tux at the Oscars the night Green Book won. And it is just absolutely devastating an image.
And it'll never be as bad as Do the Right Thing losing to Driving Miss Daisy. That's just kind of like
I forgot about that.
It's the simulation pissing in our faces is what it is.
Yeah, you should never forget about it. But I think it's worth saying everyone recognized Black Klansman, despite its flaws, which we've admitted. It was definitely a worthy film to be celebrated that year, and certainly is going to stand the test of time more than Green Book. And I think,
what's interesting is I just looked on the Letterboxd app, which all our listeners, you should definitely sign up for a Letterboxd account because it's the greatest social media app for film lovers. And what I love about it, as opposed to IMDb's rating system, is the Letterboxd community or the people who post reviews are very serious and well informed on their opinions. So when I did
the most part,
when I looked up the stats, what was interesting, out of 72 directed titles that Spike Lee has made in his career, that Black Klansman has eclipsed Do the Right Thing as his highest voted, most popular film.
That's not right.
Stunning to me.
No, that's not correct.
But I do think it's worth noting that because he did, despite the Green Book of it all, he was so celebrated for Black Klansman. Everyone was so ready to embrace Spike and lift him back up to the top of the heap again. He's playing with house money again, and that's going to be in. So, and this was the project he did next. So I think that's worth.
This is it.
This is his Irishman. This is Defy Blood Irishman.
That's right. He's playing with Netflix. He's got Netflix money. He's got 2-hour 40 runtime. He's got Delroy Lindo, Isaiah Whitlock are in the leads. This is Spike is flexing right now. And and the only other thing. Sorry, one last thing though. I do think it's important for Lodgecast listeners. Lucas, it's very bright on your screen right now, and I'm a little concerned if the blinds aren't down, we're going to have a lot of, it was underexposed, I couldn't see
it.
Yeah,
Were they in
I
Vietnam?
am recording in my booth, my studio, which is my bedroom, but I will be watching it projected in my living room with the blinds
I want it to be
drawn
a cave.
and the doors closed, so it'll be dark.
Good. I want it to be not Van Helsing. Who does Van Helsing murder? Nosferatu's lair. That's what I want.
Yeah.
I want Nosferatu's lair for Spike here. I want a nice, clean setup.
Lucas Ferratu.
Lodgemaster's already teed up because his room is blacked out and there's a red light on him, so he's already
leading
in
by
the,
example.
Midnight movie mode.
I'm ready. So, Brother Bishke, any soothsaying words of prediction before we travel to Vietnam with old Spike?
Every Spike Lee film, all the ones that I watched, he gets a great cast, and the actors are always just incredible to watch. So I'm expecting the same thing with this one. Like we're gonna have some great performances for sure. 2 hours and 40 minutes. We'll let you know what we're feeling about the whole thing as a whole. But I'm excited.
I'm guessing the opening or closing credits will be real life footage of like dead, like black U.S. soldiers in Vietnam or something, like just brutal.
Strong odds of that. Yeah.
Well, boys, let's travel into the unknown. Let's boot up our Netflix. And this is a full episode, so we're going to watch it now, and we'll come back with the hottest, freshest take imaginable on this film. So,
chopping it up.
We'll see you on the other side.
Love and light.
Love and light.
Lock and load.
5 to 1, baby. 1 in 5. No one here gets out alive now. You get yours, baby. I'll get mine. Gonna make it, baby, if we try. The old get old and the young get stronger. May take a week and it may take longer. They got the guns, but we got the numbers. Gonna win, yeah, we're taking over. Come on!
Oh my God, we are back. We are out of Vietnam. We got choppered out of there. And oh my God, that, my friends, was a movie.
That was a full movie.
That was a tour of duty in Spike Lee country.
Before we get into it, before we dig into the Five Bloods,
I gotta get the schnapps.
Fishy! What's that shot?
From Rotten Tomatoes, from Academy Award winner Spike Lee comes a new joint. The story of 4 African-American vets, Paul, Delroy Lindo, Otis, Clark Peters, Eddie, Norm Lewis, and Melvin, Isaiah Whitlock Jr., who returned to Vietnam, searching for the remains of their fallen squad leader, Chadwick Boseman, and the promise of buried treasure. Our heroes, joined by Paul's concerned son, Jonathan Majors, battle forces of man and nature while confronted by the lasting ravages of the immortality of the Vietnam War.
I would say that's accurate.
Mm-hmm.
That's part of it,
It's that and so much more. Much like with Black Klansman, Spike is mixing media. He's jumping around in time, and he is not even remotely doing anything that could be mistaken for subtlety in this film.
Mm-hmm. He's never been a subtle filmmaker.
No.
And he's not getting more subtle as the years go on. He's getting very direct, and, you know, in a way that is refreshing. You're just like, well, holy shit. He's saying exactly what he wants to say in the most direct way he wants to say it.
Yeah. I mean, I knew we were after the races as soon as Delroy Lindo says, build that wall. And I was like, whoa.
Before going into the plot, just based on what you just said, it reminds me a little bit of late stage David Lynch in the most recent season of Twin Peaks, where there's like a lot going on, a lot more than needs to be going on, and yet a lot of interesting shit in the middle of all that. But go ahead. Yeah. I just find it interesting. A lot of these kind of guys who made remarkable work in the 80s and a little bit in the 90s, Spike's recently as well, but like now when they have as much money as they need, or it appears, and full reign, no one's telling them one way or the other what to do. They're operating. They're throwing it all the ideas at the wall.
This is fully funded, absolute autonomy that Spike Lee was given, and it is very clear.
Yeah.
And the budget's huge. We start with Muhammad Ali with his comments about the Vietnam War.
Lucas was entirely correct.
Yes, he takes us through stock footage of social unrest in the late 60s and 70s, all with Marvin Gaye on the soundtrack. There's pretty much wall-to-wall Marvin Gaye needle drops in this film. And we are introduced to these four guys, and we're off to the races right away. The Lodge Mistress was watching, and she's just like, this feels almost like a documentary, watching these guys reconnect. And it does seem like they're old friends. Like they got some good chemistry going. And as Bishke mentioned, Delroy Lindo, who by far is the star of this film, like acts the shit out of this movie.
Yeah.
Like, he's a force of nature.
Yeah.
Partially because he's such a complex character. He is a Trump head. Like, he's wearing a Make America Great Again hat through most of the movie, which is such a crazy presence in this film.
Yeah.
But it's fascinating.
And the what that hat goes through, the sweaty, dirty.
Hat.
Yeah.
We were thinking about the person in the crew that had to weather it, like at different stages of this hat that it goes through. But the very basic plot is they go back to Vietnam, both to recover the remains of their fallen comrade, Stormin Norman. But in Shades of Capone, they have a bunch of gold hidden somewhere, and they've come to get it back and take it home.
Yeah, definitely Three Kings plot, kind of.
Yeah, but as always with tales like this, except for Capone, because Capone never finds his gold. But with tales like this, it's all about the journey. It's about everything around the gold and what the gold does to the men and what it all means to each one of them.
Yeah.
And over the next 2 hours and 40 minutes, we get a thorough examination of this. And I, for one, was riveted. This is one of those movies where so much shit is being thrown at the wall that you can't even really blink, because you don't know what's coming next. You don't know what he's going to throw at you.
And there's some moments of shock that will get to that.
Oh, yeah. Multiple dragons, I thought.
Oh, yeah. It's a Hydra.
I feel like right after the buddies met each other in the hotel, there's a scene where they go through a nightclub before the hat comes on, where they're moving, they're dancing, they're really getting down, and the camera's
Marvin Gaye, gotta give it up.
Yeah, and it's like the classic Spike Lee shot where the actors are dollying with the camera, and I was howling because Clark Peters is really going after it, and just
he loves it.
Yeah, it was a great dance sequence. But it was a sign of things to come in that, like, every single Spike Lee trope from all his movies, he brings out of the bag, including how he frames it in a way that I think both worked for and against the movie, where it's like he wants this movie to be more, he wants this story to be more than it is. And I think it works better in some of his other films than it did for me in this one, but we can get to that later. But, I do think it was really interesting just for the first part of the movie. I don't think I've ever seen a Vietnam movie that's centered on black vets before. And I think I think it was a really interesting point of view to spend 2.5 hours with these guys that are wrestling with the fact of what they gave to the country that was never giving to them in the first place, and wrestling with whether they should give back to their community or whether they should take for themselves. And they kind of re-explore that idea a number of different ways. And I think on the face of that alone, I think it's an interesting story and movie to make. But I do think it's, like you say, about so many other things that sometimes it was about too many things.
There's like five different interesting movies going on at once.
Yeah. No, it's ambitious, if not overly ambitious. Like Yeah. If you're going to work on this big of a canvas, it had better be overly ambitious. Yeah.
Like give us enough to chew on, and we have plenty to chew on. So
did it take a while for you guys to get settled into the timelines and like feel like you were in it? I'm with you that like the buddies felt real. Like I liked like Lucas's prediction about the opening documentary stuff. Like I was ready to be in that era. And then I saw the buddies. I was with it, but then it started like the rhythm of it was hard for me to get fully into until we were on the river.
Well, the flashbacks are interesting because we change aspect ratio and film stock. I, for one, am happy that they didn't try to de-age anybody in the flashbacks.
Speaking of the Irishman, yeah.
The Irishman. But the flashbacks are just it's a lot of gunfighting at the beginning where you haven't really built up enough to really know what's going on yet, other than just general battling together. And the score is so bombastic in the flashbacks,
right,
that it's also not really you're not at that operatic level yet with this movie.
I wish there was the Marvin Gaye score over the first major flashback combat scene, and instead it was Terrence Blanchard's score, which is Spike Lee's go-to guy, is like his John Williams essentially, and it was so heavy-handed. It was like a parody, you know. I couldn't help but chuckle. It was
John Williams parody.
Like I couldn't help but chuckle a couple times because it was like out of Tropic Thunder almost.
Yeah,
you know?
It was very triumphant. Yeah,
great helicopter stunt, but I felt like that's what you guys are landing on, and I actually agree. I didn't mind the not even no de-aging. They didn't even try and hide that they were the same age. They didn't do any makeup or hair dye, or they very clearly made the choice to let them be the age they are in the present day in the flashbacks, kind of like putting you in their mindset of where they are now, looking back on those memories. And I actually really, to me, I thought that was a nice, interesting choice that I haven't really seen done in this kind of a movie before that I can think of.
I probably could have used more of the flashbacks personally, like just in terms of their character development,
right?
In terms of, you know, the guy Chadwick Boseman plays Norm, you know, just in terms of what he meant to them, like, you know, because it just kicks off with an action sequence, and there's other sequences that you know, there's more dialogue. But yeah, I really like the look of the flashbacks, and could have probably used a little more of it even.
It's almost like he's mashing up 3 different movies: a documentary, this modern kind of more
get on the bus, like
conversational,
memoir.
And then the third one is all of a sudden we're in the middle of an action movie shot on grainy film with maximalist music. So it's really
a lot.
It was really hard to feel in the rhythm of the movie. And then, you know, there was that scene where Clark Peters goes to visit this woman in Vietnam that's going to help them. And he discovers, there's a biracial daughter that he's like freaked out. Is that our daughter? And it's like, obviously, but there was something about it. And Clark Peters is an exquisite actor, but I don't even think it was him. I didn't love the actress that was cast.
That scene and that plot was not the best.
Well, it was too early. It was too early. It was
so early for a reveal.
Man, I was rolling my eyes hard.
It was pretty funny.
So we had to get through some treacherous shit. But once we got onto the boat, and there was like Spike was winking at us, like kind of
with Ride of the Valkyries,
reclaiming Ride of the Valkyries in a way. He was kind of like, this is our version of Ride of the Valkyries in Vietnam. I kind of like that. Because he's just being so overt with it. When Delroy Lindo gets into this crazy back and forth with this guy trying to sell him a chicken from a boat.
Yes, the pushy chicken vendor.
Then I was like, I'm with this movie now. And his son's with them, and it's tense, and Delroy Lindo.
And you know there's treasure afoot.
Yeah.
If you know that there's a goal of treasure, your movie will go onto the rails so hard.
Yeah.
And you can do whatever you want. Pretty much, again, Capone notwithstanding. But if you have a treasure that everybody's going for, then you can kind of relax on the plot front and just really soak in the characters.
Right.
Because you know we're all headed somewhere. You know, there's a goal.
And it kind of went, for me, it kind of ebbed and flowed between totally being gripped and being like, Boy, you're taking your time, Spike. Until they reach, they discover the gold in the mountain, and that led into a sequence of scenes that I thought were fantastic.
Crazy.
I mean, for me, I have to agree. You could cut out the first hour of this movie, and it still works exactly as a movie. And
it still would work.
You still have like another 90 minutes left, and because for me, it didn't start until they were on the trail and their Vietnamese guide is like, this is a bad idea. I should be going with you. And they're like, no, we got this. And they leave. I clocked it. That was 59 minutes into the movie. And I was like, brah. Like most movies are wrapping shit up in 30 minutes. Like you're just getting on to the start of their journey. Like the river doesn't really count. That just kind of like introduces everybody and sets up the PTSD backstory. But like it took way too long for me to get there. Like way too long.
They do a point about, let's say, either backstory or thematics. And I feel like he'd do the expositional lifting of those backstories or thematics multiple times in that first hour. And I feel you're totally right. Like with the right editing, the movie could have been at minute 30, 35 where it was at minute 50, 55 when the gold's discovered, and we would have been fine. You know, we
all knew that wasn't going to happen with Spike.
No,
we all knew that. We knew that going in.
I've watched a bunch of Spike in the past few weeks. I know that he can get
Bishke's prepped for this.
This is the wiliest uncut Spike that I've ever seen.
Absolutely, no, but he can get repetitive when he has Final Cut. He can hit points over and over again. You're kind of like, okay, next, plot point.
Once they get to the gold, it's a little silly because the way that they find the gold is Delroy's son goes to take a shit, and in digging a hole for himself, he hits a bar of gold. Now, how do you sit down and write that? How do you sit down and have that be how they find the gold? I don't know. I don't want to know. But we are treated to a glorious sequence in which they all start finding the gold bars and they just rejoice for like 10 minutes.
It's a salad dragon to me. I mean,
I love it. I loved it.
The Salad Dragon. A scene in a movie that is so bizarre, baffling, or transcendent that it instantly justifies the price of admission. Or Reese Witherspoon's leafy transformation in A Wrinkle in Time.
It's amazing.
And every time you think the sequence is over, it keeps going.
Oh my God.
And they're chanting with each other, they're singing, they're like, and I'm kind of with it at that point. I mean, it's like,
and it must be said that we have been introduced at this point to Richard Jewell himself, Paul Walter Hauser.
He's looking great. He's looking fantastic.
And his buddies who work for a company that is sweeping for landmines.
Yeah, so landmines are coming.
Love against mines and bombs.
We've got a few French characters. You got like the twin imperial forces at play going on here. But anyway, go ahead.
Jean Reno.
But landmines are coming up. So every time that one of the Bloods gets a little too far away from his buddies and is rejoicing, you're just like, like the lodge mistress had her head in a pillow, that whole joyous sequence. Right. We're going to stop the plot specifics right around here, but just suffice it to say, landmines do go off in this film. Just not quite when you expect, and then absolutely when you expect.
Yeah, a landmine. Whoa. Like
and it's Salad Dragon City when landmines go off in this movie.
Yeah. I mean, it is what it is. Like, God.
Yeah, I knew when the first Salad Dragon arrived. I knew exactly when it arrived, for sure.
I mean, it's a wild, woolly movie.
Yeah.
And I didn't expect to be so consistently into it, though. Like, I thought I was going to lapse a lot more, and I really didn't. I knew that certain things were being repeated, but the camaraderie among the gentlemen and Delroy Lindo's performance kept me in it.
Delroy is like going through it, like that POV. They go into some POV
We got to
shots.
talk about that sequence.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Just how to phrase this? I guess in all movies with buried treasure, everyone kind of turns on each other, and that, of course, happens here. without getting into the specifics totally of how we get there, at one point, basically, there's some Vietnamese pirates, or like, what would you? They're there to get the gold, and there's a whole altercation. After the dust clears, Delroy Lindo's character is, I'm going my own way. And
he puts on his MAGA hat and marches off into the jungle.
Yeah. And we kind of go on our own way. And the movie is like, we're deep into the movie. We're at 2 hours plus at that point. And it's like, we've kind of hit a climax, but now we're kind of taking another breather before the ultimate climax. And we're cutting between the groups. And when we're with Delroy, he's totally snapped. And now he's talking to the camera, moving through the jungle, doing these long monologues, and what to say. I mean, you just
see his brain breaking and rebuilding itself over and over again on camera.
Yeah.
And it's totally believable. Like, what an amazing performance.
Yeah. And Spike is in no hurry to move on from it either.
Absolutely not.
No. I mean, you know what's going to happen to him, but but Spike takes his time and draws it out, and
he's chewing that jungle and getting every minute out of it. And I think, most will enjoy.
Yeah.
And just another point about the Make America Great Again thread. When the guys first meet up at the nightclub, which has Apocalypse Now being projected on the wall, by the way.
I love that, actually.
Trump somehow comes up, and Delroy's saying, yeah, I voted for him. And all the other guys are just like, oh, man, what are you doing, man? And this movie cuts to a clip of Trump with a Black People for Trump sign holding one black man behind him.
Right, the token.
And then there's a graphical arrow pointing to that man.
Yeah.
That is what this movie does.
Spike will cut to anything at any time. Like
President Bone Spurs was the ID.
Yeah, if Spike makes a reference to anything, he'll cut to footage or a clip or, something. Like he'll just do whatever he wants.
He's a collage artist.
Yeah.
It's a collage. This movie is a collage. And that's part of the reason why it does feel like it's at odds with itself a lot of the time. Like, what would this be as a documentary, as like a really incendiary actual documentary about this stuff? Like, as it is, it's like maybe a fourth of it is documentary feeling. Even some of the dialogue when people are educating each other about famous Black infantrymen of the past, and different sporting figures, at a very, very key moment in the movie.
I like that part, actually.
I do think it all held together, but it's definitely, you could wage the criticism that, what is this? Is this a documentary? Is this a movie? Like, what do you want to do, Spike? Mm-hmm. And his answer would be yes.
Yeah,
I want to do it all.
That's why the tension would leak like a gas tank that gets shot with bullets and is
nice.
So you're waiting. You're losing gas.
Yeah.
and for me, I had enough gas to make it, but it was unsure that I would get there. If we would run out. So for me, I think I was a little less gripped than you at times. But then whether it was Delroy or just something that Spike would do when he pulled out something out of his bag of tricks that would completely grab me again. So I was kind of in and out of this movie the entire time.
I agree. Yeah. No, there's great moments.
Let's get into it. Let's go to them 5 blood bones.
Let's do it.
Bishki, continue talking. What's your bone count?
Like I was saying, great moments. I don't think a great movie. But nevertheless, great moments. Delroy is something to see. You have to see it. I think most of the performances are pretty great. Some of the flashback sequences where, the Viet Cong are doing radio announcements to the soldiers, and those
Hanoi,
are incredible.
Hannah.
Yeah, and they're playing music to them, and
Black GI, you are fighting the wrong enemy.
Yeah, like incredible sequences, but it's you feel the length. You definitely feel 240 in my opinion. It's just Spike doing whatever he wants. and I think it, in a way, kind of captures the craziness and confusion of the time. We could talk a lot more about. There's a lot. It's a full film. There's so much to talk about. But for right now, I'm going to give it 2.5 bones. I recommend seeing it because it's Spike doing whatever he wants to do, and you have to contend with it.
And that's always fascinating.
Yeah.
Even if it's not good, it's somehow right.
It's something to see. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, brother Lucas, what do you got going on for this one? How did it look? How did it look on your projection?
How was the exposure?
It looked great, although there were a couple night scenes where it got really dark, and I was
worried. I was worried.
I gotta squint to see, and they were like,
"There's one where it's all blue. It's all blue lit, like real cold cobalt."
I have like blinds, but I need like duvetine or black cloth just to hang over it during the day because it's been a bright day today. But I had kind of like narrative whiplash in the beginning. Because it just starts with the archival footage, but then it just cuts to them checking into their hotel in Vietnam, and he like purposely is breaking the 180-degree line, like he shoots the action on both sides of the line, and it's so disorienting. And at first you're like,
in every single way,
you're thinking like student feature, but then you realize like, oh no, this is a motif that he's like doing throughout the entire movie, and it's so disorienting. And Delroy Lindo, man, I want to say he's going to win the Oscar. That's what I said about Ethan Hawke and First Reform. Dude didn't even get nominated, so like I doubt I doubt Delroy will get nominated, right? Like if they're not going to nominate Ethan Hawke for First Reform, they're not going to nominate Delroy
less movies this year. LT, less movies.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to jinx it. But he should win the Oscar.
I have $100 on it, LT.
You heard it here.
We'll see.
If he doesn't, I'll just give you $100. If he does, you don't have to do anything.
But wait, can I just say, were we all surprised that Ethan Hawke did not even get nominated for Best Actor?
I'm not surprised about that at all because he didn't need it. He didn't need it.
Wow. He should have been. He should have won.
Criminal.
That movie was criminal.
Zach and I are on the same page on that one.
The movie was criminal. Move on.
I was struggling with the first half of it, and then once they found the gold, like literally when they found the gold, I started to get into it because I knew all the stuff had been set up to kind of unleash on us in this back half, and they definitely unleash on us. And Spike's like a great shooter, and I think he was working with Newton Thomas Siegel, who's like a big action director, shot a lot of big action stuff. So it was interesting to see him work with that kind of canvas or that kind of like stunts or effects, if you will. But I'm going to echo Brother Bishke's 2.5 bones, because I think for me, at a certain point, I became like emotionally fatigued, and it becomes like very bad vibes. Like it's not a happy, like, hey, mom, dad, you got to watch this. Or like, hey, like tell my girlfriend, like, you got to see this, It's like, I feel like, look, it's an amazing performance and it's a good story, which is technically like, yes, the definition of 3 bones, but I'm not going to tell anyone close to me to watch this. Like, it's too dark, man. It's way dark.
And you're talking dark thematically, not dark projection.
Right. I just mean the anger and the guilt and the violence and all of that. Like, Spike doesn't hold back, and it's pretty horrific. There's some images and moments in this movie that aren't easy to stomach.
No.
All right, 2.5 from the Lodgecast co-hosts. Now we go to our esteemed guest, Brother Zach. What do you got? Love and light.
Love and light.
That's a measured love and light.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to hone in on it because, again, we really could talk for 3 hours about this, and that's part of what the problem is. I think about how I felt in his most recent film at the end when he tied together Black Klansmen to the Charlottesville protests and Trump and everything, and it just was bone-chilling. It was so effective. And I think of how he did that at the end of Bamboozled and the history of minstrelsy. Really effective. He's pulled this trick out of his bag many times.
And he does it again.
Lucas called it. We knew it would either open or end with it. It opened and ended with it. And he did the same thing with the cameras dolling, the actors dolling towards with Clark Peters and his daughter. And I'm like, is this his dream? Is it real? It's unclear, but it's just also like
much emptier this time.
It really felt hollow. Like I didn't feel moved by that relationship because he didn't lay the groundwork for it. And so wrapping it up, it is the crowning performance of Delroy Lindo's career. I mean, he's just incredible in this. So layered, so interesting, so conflicted, so electric. You can't turn away. Every time this movie threatens to fall apart, he pulls it back together.
And watch them not nominate him. Like, watch him not get nominated.
Not possible.
I don't think it's impossible to watch this movie and not nominate him, if not hand him the award. But I just feel like the movie as a whole, this will not go in Spike's pantheon. For me, I would recommend it to anyone just because this is Spike's Vietnam movie and you got to contend with it. So I actually am right in line with everyone else so far. It's 2.5.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's 3 2.5s. I'm going my own way. I'm going my own way through the jungle. I'm putting my MAGA hat on and I am slicing through the jungle on my own. I'm not too far off though. You guys all make
shooting at snakes, Matt. You're shooting at snakes.
You guys make great points. But shit, I mean, it's so ambitious. And I was, the first hour, this controversial first hour we've been talking about, I was laughing my ass off. I didn't know if I was supposed to be, but some of it was laughs of recognition. Some of it was laughs at like strange performances, like the guy that comes in asking him for money in the nightclub and then later throws firecrackers at him and laughs at him.
That was pretty great.
That was hilarious. I get that it's supposed to be harrowing and show that these guys are all suffering from PTSD or whatnot, but it's unintentionally hilarious. The scene with the Vietnamese woman who has the love child with Clark Peters, hilarious scene. Unintentionally. The pushy chicken vendor, hilarious, but also harrowing. It's harrowing-larious. I was totally in on all fronts. I was here for the seriousness of the subject matter. I was here for the way that some of it just goes off the fucking rails. And I knew there was treasure afoot, so that was always in the back of my mind. And I was just hanging out with these guys. And I really enjoyed doing that. And Delroy anchored the whole thing. It gets so over the top, but again, it's Spike Lee. Like, what do you expect at this point? The guy is unchecked. He is madness on a cinematic level right now, and I'm here for it. Like, I say give him double this budget next time and see what kind of shit he throws at the camera.
Yeah.
Like, and what kind of clips he cuts to out of nowhere.
You're rolling the dice. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't with him. I don't know.
I enjoyed this more than Black Klansman.
Really?
Black Klansman has sunk on the bone level in my rearview mirror at this point.
Yeah, I to circle back with Black Klansman, I was talking about it the other day with someone and I was like, gosh, I think I gave that 2.5 bones as well, because I remember I was kind of let down with the lack of tension or suspense, considering just what a fucking pot boiler, like powder keg, loaded dice, like that kind of setup was, and it just didn't land as hard as it should have, I guess.
And this one didn't land either, to be honest.
And I think it's because of the running time. I seriously, I was just like, oh,
but the
man.
running time did not bother me this time. Like, when I saw that there were 30 minutes left, I was like, well, I could go more than 30. Like, it did not bother me. But the way that Zach mentioned that it's a more of like he's playing his greatest hits at the end, but like when the Eagles play Hotel California in 2020, they're not digging in anymore. I think Spike just it felt tacked on at the end, and that's really too bad. But I'm giving 5 Bloods 3 bones. That's what I'm doing.
Right on.
Brother Bishke, you said you rewatched 25th Hour recently, correct?
Yeah.
Is Isaiah Whitlock is in that one too, right?
I believe so, yeah.
He's a detective, small role in that film, right?
Yeah.
So this is now the second Spike Lee, Isaiah Whitlock collaboration where Isaiah Whitlock at a really opportune moment, does his patented she.
That's where I was like, where have I heard that before?
Yeah,
It's
it's
the
the
Wire
Wire.
too.
There you go.
He does it in everything. It's his
Okay.
move. But
Nice.
It's his trademark.
is there an actor who has a move like that? I know The Rock had the eyebrow for so long. Whitlock, though, is like a much better actor than The Rock. But like Whitlock pulls shit out of his bag of tricks in almost every movie.
It always is appropriate.
I was
it's
fucking
iconic,
howling
yeah.
when he did it this time.
Yeah.
And it's a deep, long one, too.
They
It's like
waited
at
a long
least 5
time
or
to pull it
7
out.
years.
Yeah. I mean, he waited until like deep into this film to use his one go.
I knew it was coming, too.
Yeah.
I could feel
Amazing.
it. I could feel
Amazing. Do you think they had a conversation about like, you know, when we're going to drop it? This time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was from day one.
And
Day one, they knew.
And again, Lodge Master, if you like the wild and woolly Spike Lee, check out Chirac. I don't recommend it.
I know you've been on me about
I don't recommend
Chirac.
it to anyone else but the Lodge Master. Lodge Master.
I'm
check
ready
it.
now.
Yeah.
I might watch it tonight. I'm
Okay.
ready right
Good,
now.
good.
Well, boys, that's the 5 Bloods.
Did
We
it.
did it.
Wow.
We spent our whole day on it.
Good afternoon.
If everybody could only see this Zoom meeting and
Yeah.
all the fists going
Fists
in.
up, folks.
Oh my God.
Spike.
Well, Spike, you've done it again.
Yeah. Many more, Spike.
Brother Zach, thank you for lending your time
Sure.
and your sparkling insight.
You know, thank you guys. There was something doing it this way, how we normally used to do it, right?
Yeah.
There was something real nice because we were all going into it together. And so even though we were all
Yeah.
watching it on our own couches, there was a camaraderie that I
could
felt.
feel you guys.
Yeah, and I was like, I
that
wonder what
first
they're
Sal
thinking.
Dragon.
Yeah, I was like, I'm like, oh, I bet.
Man.
Yeah.
Wow.
It feels good to know we're all watching it together.
Yeah,
Oh,
it does.
Daddy.
Yeah, it does. That's the camaraderie of the Bloods, you know?
That's right.
Yeah.
I love you, boys.
Yeah, much love.
All right.
Yes.
Love and light.
Love and light to the Lodge.
Love and light.